I made this beautiful asymmetrical drop waist maxi dress for a pretty bride that she used for her wedding shoot. And in this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew the asymmetrical drop waist maxi dress. My name is Oluwatosin. In case it's the first time you're seeing my channel and you're welcome. In case you're new here, please consider subscribing. This dress has the neatest finishing that you can think of. Look at the zip at the back of this dress, well sewn and laid to perfection. And in this tutorial I'll be teaching you all of this. I used two kinds of crepe for this dress, a plain crepe and a flowery crepe, obviously. And here are the basic measurements that you need to measure on whether you want to sew a maxi dress like this. For this my plain crepe, it is stretchy on both sides, but one side is more stretchy than the other. Now, what you will put into consideration before even proceeding to folding your fabric are things like, is my fabric stretchy, and all of that. So this one I'm working with is very stretchy. Again, you put into consideration the highest measurement between the person's bust, waist and hip. It happens to be a hip, so I'll be considering that hip and be adding 10 inches allowance. You can see a few cases where it will be the person's bust or even the person's waist. Just make sure that you check for the highest measurement between the bust, waist, and hip. Don't always just assume that the hip is always the biggest. There are some people with bigger bust than hip. There are some people with bigger waistline than hip. But in our case, is our hip. Our hip is 48, so I added 10 inches allowance, and then I'll be folding this into four. I'm also considering the more stretchy part of my fabric. The part that is very stretchy will be the part that, not the length, will be the part where like that will go around the body, not the length. So I consider that before folding my fabric. So after folding my fabric like this into four, I left zip allowance of 1.5 inch. At the back, you can see the way I'm folding it. So the next thing I did was to divide a shoulder line by two, and then I marked that and I added half-inch allowance because this dress will have a sleeve. If the one you are sewing will not have a sleeve, you don't even have to use up to the shoulder line divided by two. So for the armhole, our armhole is actually 22, but instead of dividing 22 by 2, I deducted 3 inches from it first, which gives me 19. It's that 19 that I divided by 2. Then from the armhole, I'll be measuring 2.5 inches downward, and that will be our bust point. Then another 5 inches downward from the 2.5, that will be the waistline. Then from that 5 inches, I'll be measuring 4 inches downward, and then another 4 inches. I consider first hip is basically the skirt waist. I consider it whenever I'm sewing a fitted dress like this. Is the skirt waist, but I call it first hip. So I'll be dividing our bust by 4. I'll be marking it and adding 1.5 inch allowance. Then on the waistline, waist divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch allowance. On the first hip, which is the skirt waist, that part of the body divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. Then the hip divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. When I was done doing this, I proceeded to slanting my shoulder. I slanted my shoulder with 1.5 inch. Then I proceeded to marking out the neckline. Is round neck for both front and back, but I used neck width of 7. On fold of 2, I marked 3.5 and neck depth of 3 at the front and 1.5 at the back. Then I proceeded to cutting all of this out. At first, I trimmed the zip allowance before I'll proceed to slanting. To get that perfect zip at the back that it will not bulge, it is not just the way you fix it, the way you cut your zip allowance too matters. So on the waistline, I had to reduce the zip allowance with 1 inch. I used just half-inch on the waistline for the zip allowance, so that it can just follow the person's back. So this is me now cutting out the pencil sleeve. For the pencil sleeve, I folded for both sleeves at the same time. And what I measured now is an armhole. As my fabric is not on any fold, I measured an actual armhole, which is 22, and then I folded it into two. And like I said, I'm cutting for the two sleeves at the same time. So the next I did was to measure the length. The sleeve length that I'm working with is 8, but I used 10 because I'll be folding it down with 2 inches. Then I divided a round sleeve around the bicep region by 2. I marked that I added 1.5 inch sewing allowance. From the top, I proceeded to measuring the cap sleeve. I used cap sleeve of 4. Then I proceeded to marking out the armhole on the sleeve, connecting it to the cap sleeve. After marking it out, I still proceeded to measuring to be sure that there is enough to go around the armhole and then there is sewing allowance. So when you are done doing this, what you do next is to pick up the first two at the front and then you will trim it out with half inch or 1 inch allowance. This is because our shoulder, like our armhole, our shoulder side at the front is smaller than at the back. So when you are cutting a sleeve like this, it's always advisable to trim out that half to 1 inch. It is non-negotiable. So the next I did was to cut the facing. I cut facing for front and back at the same time. I placed my fabric and then I cut facing for front and cut facing for the back at the same time. So after all of this, the next is to start sewing majorly. If at this point you are still with me and you've not subscribed, please consider subscribing, and don't just subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified the next time I upload a new tutorial on this channel. Because on this channel, trust me when I tell you that I upload sewing tutorials on daily basis. So I proceeded to marking my fabric so that I can easily identify the right side from the wrong side. To start sewing, I started my sewing with the sleeve. I double folded it and I used hemming gum to stitch the sleeve. I didn't stitch it, I used hemming gum to gum it so that it will be very neat. So when I was done with the sleeve, the next I did was to turn the neckline. After I folded the down of the facing, you can fold it down of the facing very tiny. So after turning the neckline for the front, I turned the neckline with hemming gum. The next I did was to fix the zip. Now look how perfect and well sewn this zip came out. For this zip, because I don't want to rush it, I want it to be so detailed and well explanatory as much as possible. I made a complete tutorial on how I fixed the zip. So if you know that you have issues fixing zip, your zip is always bulging or the closeness is not always as tight as this no matter how much you try, you should watch that tutorial. The link to that tutorial is currently showing up, but in case you miss it up, the link to it will also be down in the description box. That tutorial is a well detailed tutorial on the best and easiest way you can use to fix zip, especially invisible zips like this, in a way that it will come out neat, it will not bulge at the back of whoever is wearing the dress, and the closeness of the zip will be very close, just like the one that I made for this dress. So the link to that tutorial will be down in the description box. Please check it out if you need to know how to fix it perfectly and neatly like this. So after fixing the zip, what I did next was to open it up and then I proceeded to turning the back neckline. Now I had to fix the zip before turning the back neckline so that I can turn the tip of the zip together with the back neckline so that that part of the neckline of the zip will be neat. So what I will do next is to turn the shoulder line, and when I was done turning the front neckline, I pressed it so that the facing and the dress can stick together, but I didn't press the back neckline when I was done turning. I used it to turn the shoulder line first before pressing, because if you press before turning the shoulder line, the facing will stick down to the cloth itself. Now this video is already getting too long and I don't want it to be too long. I don't want to put all of this tutorial in one video so that I will not skip what I'm supposed to explain. I will take my time to make it so detailed. I had to break this tutorial into two parts. So in my next tutorial, I'll be uploading the concluding parts of the sewing of this dress. In that tutorial, that's where I'll crop the side, I'll shape the dress, and then I'll crop the waistline. I'll cut the gathers, which is the flowery crepe, and then I'll fix it, cut the down and all of that. That's going to be in my next tutorial. Please check the description box below for the link to that tutorial, or you can click on the link that is currently showing up of this particular tutorial. But this is the outcome of the dress. You can see how beautiful and neat it is looking. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial from beginning to this point. If at this point you are with me and you've not subscribed, please subscribe. If you have any question, kindly ask me down in the comment section. And do not forget that the link to the part 2 of this tutorial is down in the description box. As much as possible, you can help me share my tutorial and meet your friends and loved ones. You don't know who this tutorial might be useful to. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.